Scottish golfers will be given the chance to play the historic Old Course in St Andrews for just £42.50.
But can they really?
Welcome back to Greens and Scenes, where we sit and we chat a lot about golf. And as two locals living in St Andrews, I feel like we would not be doing our jobs properly if we didn't chat about what has been quite popular in news recently for Scottish people.
It's not often that you see on BBC News' homepage St Andrews links in the news, but this week we did have a certain story that was right up there.
I think the last time that it was like really heavily mainstream news was when they randomly just redid the Swalcan, and it was...
when they made the patio. They made a massive patio area and it got so much hate online that it got dug up about 3 days later.
There were terrible We're not even going to go into that. We're not even going to discuss that. But I feel like the news that has come out about the Old Course is almost as popular as that. You know, it's been all across news articles. Obviously, we follow kind of like Scottish news outlets maybe a little bit more, so we might have seen it more. But recent in the news, Scottish golfers can play the Old Course for just £42.50.
What a deal. I can't think of a better green fee deal in the whole of golf.
And that is why there's a little star, and it is heavily T's and C's apply. Now, obviously, when it comes to content and any kind of like news stories, things like that, even when we're putting stuff on YouTube, you're trying to catch people's attention. You're trying to catch people's eye. And so obviously every single news outlet is saying Scottish people can play the Old Course for £42.50. There are some very strong T's and C's to that. There are some very strong kind of exceptions. How available it actually is, if you can qualify it, how often it is, We're going to run through it, we're going to explain it, we're going to give our thoughts on it.
Very appropriate and very positive news for golfers who are wanting to come to St Andrews and maybe haven't had the chance or have been put off by the higher green fees that are available at the moment. But there are some good ones that we can really touch on here.
This is very true. And if you wanted to know about the different courses and like the different costs of each of them, we have done another podcast episode where we were talking about all 10 of the St Andrews courses. A few people messaged us be like, the Dukes and the Fairmont aren't actually St Andrews courses. We know that. As we said in that episode, that was just if you search like St Andrews Golf, the courses that are going to come up. So we went through each of the courses, the cost, what they're like, why you might want to play them, why you might not. So maybe after this, go check that out if you are looking at coming up to St Andrews. Now, this whole thing, initiative.
The drive.
It's called The Drive. This is something the St Andrews Links Trust are doing. And like Cam just said, it is specifically aimed at golfers. Their wording is aimed at people who love golf, play golf, and haven't had the chance to play golf in St Andrews. And all applicants must be a resident in Scotland.
I think that's a really good start because obviously St Andrews Links, it's the home of golf within the entire world, but more so within Scotland. And I feel like most people within Scotland probably haven't had the opportunity to play because they are put off by the high price tag and the exclusivity of a tee time on the world's best golf course, the Old Course.
Yes, because I mean, the green fee for the Old Course, you're going to be paying £340 in the middle of summer, whether you're a Scottish resident or not. And I mean, something that we've talked about both on like the podcast episodes and both on the actual videos that we do when we go and play these Scottish golf courses. Machrihanish is a great example. Dundonald, you know, we've gone to some very expensive, Machrihanish Dunes as well. We've gone to some very expensive places to play golf, but you don't have to pay the full green fee as a Scottish resident. And I've always felt as though it's a big shame the fact that St Andrews doesn't offer that. As Scottish residents, we get to go and play the majority of Scottish golf courses for a reduced green fee. And then it's always felt a little bit strange that St Andrews, being the home of golf and is a Scottish place, doesn't offer that to Scottish residents. So maybe this is kind of their way of trying to do that. It is still very limited. It's not just if you're Scottish, you can come and play for £42.50, unfortunately.
It's like everything with the Old Course, because it's so oversubscribed, the amount of people that want to play is just so much more than the available tee times. So I think this is a really good start because it's basically one day in May and there's going to be 11 different tee times for 4 players each So 44 Scottish golfers are going to have the opportunity to play the Old Course for £42.50, which I think is a really, really good start.
It's a good start, but it's very limited. Like, when you read through the article, it initially kind of looks as though there's going to be 716 golfers getting to play in St Andrews on this reduced rate. That is correct, 716. However, of the different days that those 716 players can go and play, there's only 11 tee times, so 44 players on literally one day that can play specifically the Old Course. It's very limited. It is very limited. And I know that there are going to be people out there that say, and I've seen this in the comments actually, that people are saying this is literally just marketing for the Old Course. It's just marketing for the links. Like, I want to be really careful with what I'm saying. This is not my opinion. This is just what I've seen in the comments. But, you know, people are saying this is kind of, it's just marketing. It's just St Andrews Links trying to get their name out there. They're not actually giving that much because it is so limited. And there's definitely some kind of like little things to consider with that. It's only 11 tee times for the Old Course. The majority of these reduced tee times are going to be on the Eden, the Jubilee and the Castle Course. There's only one day that is actually going to be on the Old Course.
And this is just for 2025 as well. So I think this is kind of the introduction to the drive, and from what I've read, I think if it goes successfully, there is scope to kind of expand it into future years, obviously with the Open Championship coming back to St Andrews very, very soon, kind of expanding it into those years in the coming years and making sure that more people can get the chance to do it, because obviously this year it's only going to be 44 people on the Old Course out of that 716. But I think if they found that the Old Course was so heavily oversubscribed, and then the other ones maybe there wasn't as big an uptake, they would maybe swing it so there was maybe a few more tee times available on the Old.
The problem is, like, the problem that they're going to face is we all know the Old Course is oversubscribed. Like, all the time it's oversubscribed, especially for the dates that they're looking at. So the Drive campaign is going to run between May and October in 2025. This is like the launch of it. This is the start of it. You know, I'm hoping that they're going to kind of build on it, because it does just feel like a shame that up until now, St Andrews hasn't offered that kind of accessibility for Scottish golfers. And I've always felt, I felt as though it's a shame that just people in the UK generally can't access it easier and cheaper. So it's a start. Who knows where it's going to go? Hopefully it's going to build. It's a good start. So in total, and just as a little note, all the information we are pulling is from the St Andrews Links website. We're not using any kind of like reported articles other than what I've said about people commenting on it and stuff like this. So this is straight from the St Andrews Links website. You can get all of this really easily. There's 17 days that tee times are going to be available. So you've got a few days in May and June, and then it goes to September and October. All the September and October dates, it's kind of TBC as to who can play. And this is the other thing with them saying this 716 golfers. It's not 716 Scottish people, full stop. For example, this day on the Old Course where you've got 11 tee times, so 44 players, yes, it is Scottish residents. That's the only thing you need to qualify. You have to ballot in pairs, so you could pick somebody, but it's not going to be a four ball. You know, you don't get control of that whole tee time. You're just balloting in pairs for those 11 tee times. But then if you look at some of the other days, so the next day, that day on the Old Course is the 21st of May. The next day, the 27th of May, you have to be somebody with a connection to the armed forces. I don't know whether that's currently serving or previously serving, but that the criteria for that day is armed forces. The following day, the 28th of May, and these are now all on the Eden Course, it's for golfers with a disability. The following day is emergency services and NHS. The following day is for women. The day after is for families. And then the day after that is for Scottish Golf Club members. And then after that, it's volunteers. So you have to be Scottish and something else for the majority of these days.
It does cover quite a variety of different bases, and potentially exactly the people that they're trying to target with it as well. Yeah. Potentially the people who haven't had the opportunity due to financial constraints, or, you know, due to obviously having a family is incredibly expensive, you know, potentially not having the free money to be able to take your children to go and play a St Andrews golf course and giving them that opportunity to come and do so, even if it's on the Eden course, you're still getting the 87.5% discount on the green fees. And it kind of just makes sure that all these subsets of people who might have struggled in the past to access St Andrews Links are able to do so, because St Andrews Links are a charity.
Yes.
At the end of the day, their mission is to kind of increase participation in golf and make it accessible. And I think this initiative really does drive that.
I think that's the thing, is that St Andrews are never really going to have to push for more participation to their golf courses. Yes, they want to kind of increase participation in golf in general, which is fantastic. All of the St Andrews golf courses are oversubscribed. As locals, we can be trying to get tee times, and there will be limited amounts of tee times that we can get, whereas at the majority of courses, I feel as though, you know, you could turn up at 3 p.m. on a Saturday afternoon and you'll be able to get out straight away. You're not able to do that really in St Andrews unless you're kind of turning up to the new course and it's a little bit quieter. But say if we wanted to go and turn up to the Eden course at 3 p.m. on a Saturday, it would be booked out and you would be waiting until like the last tee time.
Yeah, there's so many more people that want to play golf than there are spaces to play golf.
Yes.
Which is very, very difficult.
However, the accessibility side specifically for St Andrews is a big thing. So, I mean, the Eden course, the normal summertime green fee is £75. You would be paying £9.50 to play it in the drive. So, I mean, they're earning a very small amount for these reduced green fees. It is, like you said, an 87.5% reduction in the green fee. You might be wondering, that £42.50 for the old course seems like a little bit of a random number. It's the same amount that we would pay. Links ticket points in St Andrews is very, very confusing. We've done another episode that's titled like what we get as locals living in St Andrews. If you want to understand the point system a little bit more, go watch that one. If we wanted to use some of our links ticket points, which we get very, very limited amount anyway, but we could use them in different times of the year. And if we wanted to use some of our points to take somebody onto the old course, we would use our points and we would pay £42.50 to take somebody onto the old course in winter. If we wanted to take, think of it as kind of like a guest concession, but it's slightly different. If we wanted to take somebody onto the old course using our points in summer, it would cost about £85. So it's a really good deal. Like you're not going to be able to play the old course for any cheaper than that, like at all.
It's almost just a nominal amount, just that so it's not free.
Yeah, it kind of feels that way.
It's like saying, oh, you're going to have to pay, but it's this small amount of money just so we know that you do actually want to do it, rather than it just being free and everyone putting their name down for it. Yeah. Which I think is really good.
I wonder how many people are going to apply for it. I mean, like everyone that I've spoken to recently in the last few days, anyone that I know that's Scottish is just like, oh yeah, we've entered it. And I don't know, it's designed to be for people who have never played in St Andrews before. I wonder if in the ballot process, in the application to actually enter the ballot, I wonder if you have to say, no, I've never played there. Let's see. Okay, so we've actually just got the ballot application up here. £42.50 per person. These tee times are for those who love golf, play golf, but may not have had the chance to play the old course in St Andrews, and for whom the green fee may have been a barrier. That is word for word what it says when you go to enter the ballot. Now, the eligibility, it says primary residence must be in Scotland. You need a handicap of 36 or less, fair enough. You do not currently hold a St Andrews yearly ticket. You can enter the ballot as a single or a pair, and the starter might ask you to provide proof of address. Links ticket holders and members of a golf club in St Andrews are not eligible. So I guess that's the only way that they're filtering out people who have played golf in St Andrews before. You know, obviously, as a links ticket holder or a member of a St Andrews club, you will have played in St Andrews before. So that's a way of kind of taking out people who already have. But there's nothing to stop somebody who might have played St Andrews 15 times. They could still get into the ballot, technically. I guess there's no way of sort of...
I'm sure if you played the old course maybe 5-10 years ago and you wanted to enter this, I would doubt that they would block your entry.
Yeah, I don't think that there's any way for them to block your entry. I think it is literally just that if you're a links ticket holder, you can't. But anyway, it's interesting. It's a new initiative. We'd love to know your thoughts on it. Personally, I feel as though it's a good start. I think it's tricky. I would not want to be the person in charge of this. My laptop's falling apart. I would not want to be the person in charge of this because it's a scenario in which you cannot win, because St Andrews is on such a big stage that whatever decision is made, everyone's going to have something to say about it. It's literally like us sat here chatting about it. You know, everyone's going to have something to say about it. And it's kind of like, it's, you know, it's the home of golf. People, it's kind of decisions that are made here kind of are meant to inspire and lead others. The problem is, St Andrews can always fill its tee times. St Andrews does not need any help filling its tee times. So it's not as if they're doing this because they're thinking, oh, we're struggling to get people playing the Eden. Let's open it up at a discounted rate. That'll get people onto the Eden. The Eden is booked. The Eden is fully booked. We can't get tee times on the Eden sometimes even when we wanted to.
Yeah.
So St Andrews, they are doing this from a perspective of like, how can we open this up to Scottish people and make it accessible? I honestly think though, like, you know, to open it up to every single person in Scotland that wants to play in St Andrews, they'd have to block the courses off for like, what, a year to give everybody the opportunity. And that's why it's a scenario that they can't really win in. And that's what's tricky about it. Like, I don't know how you make that possible, because then there's going to be people from England and Wales and Ireland and being like, well, we're still part of the United Kingdom, like, where's our discounted green fee? I don't know. I don't know where it's going to go. I don't know what the solution is.
I think my hope with it is that, say it's 44 spots for the old course this year and they get 2,000 people wanting to do it. You know, if they're going to maybe expand it in the coming years, make a few more tee times accessible, and then you can kind of gradually work through all of those 2,000 people that really, really want to play it at that discounted price, and they can work through those people and new people will join the list, and eventually most of the people who have initially expressed an interest to do it are able to take advantage of the deal. And I think that would be a real success in itself. And even if they're just getting access to the Eden course, that's a success.
I think you're massively underestimating how many people will enter that, because my reasoning being, when St Andrews did the old course in reverse, video coming soon, hit that subscribe button if you want to watch it. When they did the old course in reverse, and this is just for locals, this is people that live physically in St Andrews, to play the old course in reverse, which I know is different to playing the old course the normal way around. I know. But how many people entered that?
I think there were 800 people, and there was only one person on this sofa that was successful.
You had a fun day.
I did. I carried a camera around and was sad that I wasn't getting to play.
You think 800 people entered that?
Yeah. So none of those 800 people are going to be able to do that because they're all links ticket holders.
That's not my point though. Like, if 800 people from St Andrews enter to play the old course, and now Scottish people can now enter to play the old course.
How many Scottish golfers are there?
A lot.
That would be an interesting number to find out, and then you could work back on that to think how many people.
How many Scottish golfers are there?
Right.
209,000. I don't know where that comes from.
That's a lot.
It's a lot.
Is that members of Scottish golf clubs as well? Because that doesn't take into account the people doing open play and everything like that.
I'm not sure. That's what AI thinks. AI can be wrong at times. Yeah. There's going to be a lot of people entering this. Like, in conclusion, there's a lot of people.
I would dread to be the person who has to go through all of that data and pick the people to participate in the 44 spots that there are available.
That's another thing that I know people are going to question. They're going to be like, is this just a data grab? I don't know. I think there's good intentions there. I think there is not a way to get it right so that everybody's happy. I think that is just the nature of it. No one's ever going to be 100% happy with it.
But
it's impossible to be.
I think it is a very, very good start, though, and it's better than nothing.
Agreed.
It's showing initiative, and it's showing that they want to make St Andrews a little bit more accessible, which I think is something that's probably been lacked in the last few years.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you see the Open coming back here again. You want it to be somewhere that the general public are able to play and are able to have that experience as well, because part of the Open is having it on golf courses that people can actually go and see and play.
Yeah, it was funny because there's a sly little dig on the St Andrews Links website, or I think it's a sly little dig. They put on it that, you know, in the UK, golf courses are charging up to £1,000 for green fees. We know who you're mentioning there. We know who that's for. I know you didn't name them, but we know. Everyone knows. Everyone knows. But I mean, that's another thing, that this is a complete rumor, I guess. This is just something that people say about St Andrews, is that like the golf courses in the surrounding area have green fees so high because when visitors come across and they see a golf course and it is cheaper than the old course, they think, ooh, no point in playing it.
Yeah, that's pretty much spot on, and I would say that almost goes for the entire championship golf course sphere in Scotland, even stretching down to some of the lesser well-known courses, in that it's almost now considered, if you don't have a green fee more than £200, say, it's not worth playing for the average American tourist.
And that as an idea kind of just drives up the price like crazy amounts. And I'm sure that whether that, you know, that being kind of a rumour kind of thing, I'm sure that St Andrews Links are aware of that. And that is something they're very conscious of. And I think kind of making this decision to try and move into that is great. I think it's really good also that they're opening it up to more people. I think it's a shame that it's been just marketed as like Scottish people can now play the old course for a reduced rate, because there's a lot of good that they're doing for, you know, women, families, people in the NHS, people in the armed forces, disabled golfers. You know, they are really trying. It's a shame that it feels like a little bit of a drop in the ocean purely because of how big St Andrews is as a scale. But they could have gone on and on for years and years and years. They could have just kept hiking the prices up and they would fill the tee times. And they've done the complete opposite of that.
And I think it's
in a small section.
I think it's really good, even just as a small start. And something quite similar to this was Scottish Golf had an initiative maybe a few years ago that started, and it started off as just one golf course. I think it was at Renaissance, which is obviously very, very exclusive, members-only golf club. And it started with a few tee times a week during the winter, and it was only open to Scottish residents and Scottish golfers. And you would put your details in just as you have in the St Andrews Links website. And it feels like this is a very, very similar thing. But the Scottish Golf one has now expanded, and I think it's up to about 5 or 6 golf courses now. You've got Muirfield in there, you've got Cabot Highlands, you've got, I think, Trump International was part of it this year. You've got loads of a variety of different golf courses that are maybe not as accessible to the average everyday golfer because of the price, and you get a heavily discounted 4-ball rate during the winter time to be able to access those golf courses. And over time they've expanded that, and I really hope that St Andrews Links have seen that and seen the success that that's had. I've had loads of friends that have taken part in that initiative, and I hope that St Andrews Links see that and think, do you know what, we could do something very, very similar with this.
I agree. I think for a place that essentially could charge pretty much whatever it wanted and still continuously fill their tee sheets, to turn around and say, this is what we're doing, this is the start of it. I think if it can continue to build, I think a big thing on stuff like this is really listening to feedback, listening to like people that are involved or maybe people that missed out, listening to what people want and trying to push towards getting close to that. They'll never be able to get exactly to it, but working in that direction, I think it's a really positive thing. I think it's a great start. I'm excited to see where it goes, where it grows, and we would love to hear your thoughts on it. We'd love to know if you've entered the ballot.
And we'd love to know if you're successful, because we'll come down and cheer you on when you hit your first tee shot, and we'll make you feel really nervous because there'll be a massive crowd there.
We won't do that. Don't worry. I think we're actually away the day.
Oh, that's a shame.
I don't know.
Wednesday the 23rd. No, Wednesday
21st.
the 21st.
Well, Neither of us have anything on in our calendar. I will be at work.
I might just come down and sit by the stairs and just watch all of these lovely people that have just waited their entire lives to play the old course, and they will get the opportunity to do that.
Thank you guys for listening. Let us know your thoughts. Also hit that subscribe button, and hopefully we will see you in another episode very, very soon. Also go check out the other St Andrews podcasts that we have done if you want to know more about the links, ticket points, or you want to know more about the different courses. See you on the 21st of May.